Okay, so good afternoon from Vietnam. My name is Nguyễn Trung Kiên. I'm currently working as an English teacher at the University, Vietnam, and I'm going to present my presentation under the title Enhancing EFL Learners' Listening Skills Through the Flipped Classroom Approach. So the content that I will cover in this presentation include uh, mainly five parts: introduction, methods, result discussion, conclusion, and recommendation. For the first part, introduction, well, um, English traditional approaches in TFL prioritize speaking and writing over listening, as Chance in 1988 points out. This leads to lack of direct support for students to improve their listening skills. And while learners get some exposure to listening activities in class, there's a need for new methods that support listening development more effectively. And talking about a flipped classroom approach, so the flipped classroom model or the flipped classroom approach, where students learn content at home through videos or reading and use class time for interactive discussions and group work, offers a promising solution. So technology is reshaping education, and this approach allows teachers to focus on facilitating learners rather than just lecturing. So according to Chain 1 and Chain 2014, this model is designed to encourage collaborative learning and active classroom engagement. Okay, so back to the Vietnamese context. So in the Vietnamese educational system, there's a focus on exam-driven instruction, often at the expense of listening skills, according to Young and Zhao in 2019. So in my own experience as a teacher, preparing students for the TOEIC test, listening remains challenging due to limited classroom time, large classes, and the demands of the exam. And also my colleges also have like struggle with how to effectively teach listening. And also the pandemic shift to online learning added the further challenges to the situation. So given these challenges, so my study aims to evaluate the impact of the flipped classroom model on teaching listening skill, especially for TOEIC. For the literature reviews, I'm going to talk very briefly about the model that I use. That is a flipped classroom model. So a flipped classroom, also known as an inverted classroom, is an introductional approach where educational content is delivered outside the classroom through videos or other digital resources, while classroom time is dedicated to interactive hands-on learning and problem-solving activities. It includes out-of-class learning and also in-class activities. And the benefits of the model, as you can see here, is enhance student performance over time compared to traditional classroom environments. It also helps absent students catch up by providing access to pre-recorded materials. And it also allows struggling students to spend more time on difficult concepts and receive additional support. Another benefit that could be mentioned is that it encourages collaborative learning and peer interaction during in-class activities. And the final benefit of the model is to facilitate personalized instruction tailored to individual student needs. Okay, so talking about the method used in the current study. So in my study, the aims of the research is to investigate whether the use of the flipped classroom model is effective in teaching EFL learners listening skills or not. And then also to examine how different sub-skills of listening, namely listening for main ideas, listening for details, and listening for information can be affected using this approach. So following that, I have two questions, research questions. The first one is, to what extent is the flipped classroom model effective in teaching AFL learners listening skills? And the second one is, which listening sub-skills are most affected using this approach? For the research design, the two research questions were addressed using the collection and analysis of the quantitative data. So um, This one I used the pre and post TOEIC listening test to measure the effects of the flipped classroom model. And the participants of the current research, the teacher, the researcher oversaw the instructing lessons to the experimental group, while another qualified TOEIC teacher from an English center taught the same lessons using traditional teaching methods for the control group. And the participants in this study were 37 EFL learners, and most of them are students from different schools and office workers in Kansas City. For the research instrument, I use the TOEIC listening pre and post test. The test is composed of two parts with 69 questions and takes approximately 35 minutes to complete. And this test was chosen as for its reliability and validity was proven by its publisher, the YBM. And moving on to the next part, we talk about the results and the discussion. The first one is about the student listening performance before and after the intervention. As you can see here from the table 3.1, descriptive statistics show mean score variation before and after the intervention between the control group and experimental group. Also, the pair symbol t-test was used to indicate that a significant improvement in both groups' listening skill after the intervention. Okay, and moving on, the participants' listening score between the two groups before and after the intervention. So for the pretest score show no significant difference between the control and the experimental groups. The student listening performance between the two groups after the intervention, the post-test score reveals significant difference between the control group with the mean score is 37 and the experimental group with the mean score is 42. Experimental group outperformed the control group as in a conclusion that could be conclude here in this part. So moving on to the next aspect, we examine the student listening sub-skill score of the experimental group after the intervention. So mainly I have included three sub-skills: listening for main idea, listening for detail, and listening and making inference. Okay, so a paired sample t-test was used here to evaluate listening sub-skill score. So results indicate significant improvement in listening for detail and listening for main idea. However, no significant difference was observed in the listening and making inference sub-skill. So in conclusion, both groups will show improved listening skills after the intervention, with the experimental group outperform the control group. So the flipped classroom model also particularly enhanced listening for detail and listening for main idea sub-skill. Right, so for the discussion part, these findings align with the previous research by Elsaka, Asmar, and Ross Koya. So they also use achievement tests to measure the effectiveness of the model on listening comprehension skill with similar positive outcomes for university students at an intermediate proficiency level. However, contrasting results were found by Phụng and in 2020 and Smallhorn 2007, possibly due to the differences in course nature. Okay, and talking about the three sub-skill analysis, right here, several factors. Sorry. Similarly, as you can see here from the result, Marisa um, he confirmed that the flipped classroom model effectiveness in teaching and listening doesn't differ significantly between the course type. So this support our study focus on the TOEIC preparation. Notably, our study also explored the model's effect on the specific listening subskills, reviewing variant impact, listening for main idea, and listening for details show the most improvement, while making inference show the least. Okay, so the conclusion that cover in this study, we investigated the effectiveness of using the flipped classroom model to improve student listening skills. And we divided participants into control group and experimental group. And both groups show improvement after the 8-week intervention. However, the improvement was more significant for the experimental group. All right, so the recommendation for the study. So based on the limitation that we can be observed, the researcher myself want to demonstrate some credible recommendation for further research. Firstly, it is suggested that any further study to employ a quasi-experimental design with larger than 20 sample of participants. The result should, in the research opinion, be generalized to the full population in order to be more valid. Moreover, even though the flip instruction was successful in this study, we are unable to generalize on this sample because the participating students in the study had intermediate English proficiency, and a pre-classroom model might produce different results in classes with students who have lower proficiency level. And other studies should also be carried out on different types of English classes with various learner groups, situation, and English learning skills so that the results can be representative for the general English learners and different learning purposes, not just for any specific certificate. And moreover, further research should also consider the factors of student prior flipped classroom experiences, as well as their learning preferences to bring the almost effectiveness. Okay, so I think this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.